Star Wars Skeleton Crew. So obviously we're back this week. Star Wars Skeleton Crew did start last week with a 2-episode premiere on Disney Plus. The 3rd episode is now out, and this follows Wim, Neil, Fern, KB. We also have SM-33 or Smee, the droid on the ship that they found, who is voiced by is voiced by Nick Frost. That's right. And then we have, I believe, Farah, who is Fern's mother, the proctor of this planet at Aden, who is played by Carrie Condon. And then we have a couple other pirates. And then we obviously have Mr. Jude Law as, is his name Jod-Nanawood? Is his name Crimson Jack? Or is it Captain Silvo? Or is Jod-Nanawe, is his fake name Captain Crimson Jack Silvo? Maybe it's all just one name. I don't know. Anyways, let's just go through this real quick. What are your thoughts on Skeleton Crew? Take it away. Go wherever you want to go with any of these 3 episodes.
First 3 episodes I thought were really good. And I'd say I think the kids are awesome. I think they kind of bounce off each other really well. Specifically, I forget his name, the kid who plays the elephant or the elephant's character name. He's great. Maybe my favorite.
Neil is the character. Neil. I don't know the name of the
maybe my favorite character. I'm very interested in this planet. Okay. I'm very interested in the idea that there was, and we get this info in the third episode, not really a spoiler, but the planet, as they say in the first 2 episodes, is hidden, obviously, from a bunch of other planets, kind of like oh my god, it's blanking.
Exegol.
Like Exegol or Geonosis. Or no, not Geonosis. Oh my goodness.
Tanalorr.
No, not in Attack of the Clones.
Kamino.
Yeah, Kamino was blanking. Kind of like Kamino, how it's like hidden, it's like been deleted from the master directory of the universe, you know.
Tanalorr also from Jedi Survivor.
Yep. Yeah. So I find that really interesting. And when I watched the first episode, I was like, I never thought that there would be a planet like that. For some reason, it never occurred to me like, oh yeah, there's a planet with families, you know, like a regular neighborhood, you know, they go to school and all that stuff. Are you guys looking forward to carry with I don't even know what that is.
I have not.
Oh, Carrie. Oh, it's the movie with.
I will say this. Okay. I am excited. Yeah. I have not heard good things.
I know Jason Bateman did Ozark, and I know you're a big Ozark fan. But when I see Jason Bateman in a role like that, I'm like, I don't really believe that. Personally,
really,
I'm assuming he's the bad guy. Obviously.
Oh, you don't need to watch Ozark to believe that, man. You gotta watch The Outsider on HBO. That's what you gotta watch. Just watch the first 2 episodes and you'll believe it.
With what's his name?
Yeah,
him and
talking to the cops, have you?
Yeah,
Ben Mendelsohn.
Yeah,
him. Yeah, he's so good in that. But I'm excited for Carry On. Have not heard good things though. I did not know that it was a Christmas movie. Sorry, I didn't know it was a Christmas movie. Yeah, I guess it's like Taron Egerton's the cop that's trying to get home for Christmas. Yeah.
But it never occurred to me that there was planets in Star Wars that for some reason were like, oh yeah, they got kids, families, you know, going to school, they're going to their job. This planet has a very big brotherish feel to it, where it's like, oh, we're all
very
working.
Stepford.
We're all working towards the great. I forget what it's called.
The Great Works.
Great Works. It's like, what the frick? What the hell does that mean? Everybody's, you know, an analyst, or everybody goes to work for the corporation. Mm-hmm. And they got to take the test, and it's going to decide, you know, what you will be. And I never really got a sense of what the consequence was. I'm assuming it was probably just a really terrible job. That's why it's so important to do well on the test, because you want to be probably an analyst, like the father, like a lot of the kids' parents are. So I found that really interesting, and I'm excited to see like where that goes. And I'm very interested as well in Jude Law's character. And at the end of the second episode, when he shows up, he, you know, does his force thing, and I'm like, oh, maybe is he a Jedi? I was like, did they like advertise that he's a Jedi or anything like that? And obviously, as episode 3 goes on, you'll learn more about him. And I'm not saying he's the Star Wars universe's Mysterio, but he might be. I don't know. I don't know if he has some smoke and mirrors someplace,
You know what's crazy?
What was that?
I watched the first hour of Far From Home last night.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
And you probably said, I think that's Jude Law. Well, I mean, I guess at that point you didn't see the episode. But
you know what? Actually, to be fair, I watched it because of Skeleton Crew, because of John Watts.
Oh, fair enough.
I actually did.
But I'm interested to see like what his character is. And obviously there's some sort of, and I've said it multiple times, there's treasure somewhere on the planet.
Yeah.
So I'm interested. They got me. I will say that. It's a little kid, but it's like, it's like the Goonies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's very much
vibe. John Watts has said multiple times, it's a show with kids, but it's not a kid show, and I think that's like very easy to say. And, a lot of people say that. But I really feel like it's true with this. I think it's a massive combination of the 4 actors that they got, are just incredible as each of these kids, just really, really nailing exactly what they're about. The only complaint really that I had of the first 2 episodes was that I feel like we didn't get enough with KB. And then I feel like KB was the focus of the 3rd episode. She got several one-on-one scenes with Jude Law. Her parents, her 2 mothers were like the big, had the big dialogue scene in that room, and that one with all the parents in episode 3. So I was excited. So even that complaint, which wasn't even really a complaint, it was just like, oh, I hope we're not leaving KB behind. Like, I hope we're not being like, well, she's the 4th, and then she's the 4th one. It's like, no, she has a very vital role that became evident in episode 3, that it's like, without KB, a lot of this logic and a lot of this technology and stuff, they're not making it back. They're not making it back without some of what KB can do. Even just the, like, her implant letting her sense that droid was coming around the corner, and then they make the joke where it's like, oh, I guess she has the Force too. But it's like, I just love that she's that in tune with like technology. She's like Lobot, but you know what I mean? It's like, and I thought it was, again, just the constant mystery building that's going on here is like, why does KB have this medical device that her moms are like, her, what do they say? Her life tracker, it stopped pinging or something. And it's like, is this kind of like this Black Mirror-y vibe of like, the people that like implant their kids, like microchip their kids, so I think that'll be very interesting if we get a moment where it's like, maybe she didn't even choose to have this.
Right. I forget what the bird's name.
Kim.
Kim. Yeah.
You know how it's spelled though?
KH-YMM. Oh, okay.
Because of course it is.
Of course.
It's got
but when they're kind of looking at the map and they're like, oh yeah, there is I think it's 8 planets. And it's like part of the old Republic. It goes all the way back then. And then 7 of them are destroyed. There's this one remaining. And
the Jewels of the Republic.
Yeah. And I'm
totally
like,
new concept to Star Wars.
Which I'm just kind of like, is this going to be one of those,
I think it could be interesting.
Sneaky Jedi type secret things that, they didn't want to tell anybody about. So I am really, they really do got me. They really needed a good bounce back after Acolyte.
Yeah.
Like it or not. And obviously that show had its fans, but for the most part, it just did not hit the mark, unfortunately. Yeah. And they really needed something other than Andor to bring people back. And I think so far they got it with Skeleton Crew.
Yeah, I am going to mimic almost the entirety of what you said. I think everything, starting with what you said, the kids. I was telling my friend Zach at work, it's the first 2 episodes are great. And Jude Law doesn't come into the show. Granted, he's in the cold open of the show, but he doesn't really enter the show until the end of the 2nd episode. And I'm like, if I enjoyed those 2 episodes that much with just the kids and the parents, once you introduce Jude Law, and now really Jude Law and all these other pirates who you see Brutus, the like wolf, which I know the technical species name and stuff like that. I just can't pull it right now. But the Wolfman, pirate, the main one, Brutus.
Yeah.
You see him in all the marketing materials and stuff, but he actually does have a pretty substantial role on the show. Like, I thought it was just going to be like maybe he'll pop up here and there, but like I said, like this show, it's just one of those shows that it feels like a show. It's that classic kind of, it's almost stupid now because of how many people say it, but like, people pick things up in this show. Like I threw on, after I watched episode 3, I threw on the Mando season 2 finale with Luke. And I was like, man, as great and as emotional as this moment is because of what's happening and who it is and the music, I'm like, man, this is just people standing in a cardboard room. Like, that's what that show kind of feels like sometimes in The Mandalorian. And I'm just like, and that's not even about the sets. That's just about the camera. I'm just talking about the camera work in The Mandalorian. It's just people, standing. Really? Do you think we could do that? I think I could call somebody. Oh, okay. But then in this show, it's like, she's like, that's not what Jedi wouldn't do that. That's not what it is. And he's like, first of all, he's a droid. Second of all, shut up. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this show is just like, everybody feels real. And I really liked, I've listened to so many after shows and podcasts and stuff about this. I can't remember who said what, but somebody, I heard this great thing that was, the show, they didn't dumb down the kids to make the mystery work. That's a really big point, is that in all these episodes, the kids are going like, well, what does this all mean? They're not just like blindly like, oh my God, I don't know, a plot. What do you mean? They're like, oh my God, what if there is a plot? Like, what, and so I saw somebody bring up the notion of like melancholy with this show, of like, are they diving into something deeper here with like, and I think a lot of the 80s movies that this is inspired by, like E.T., deal with that, of like just rediscovering your inner child, missed opportunities. Wim doesn't want to miss out. Whenever his opportunity for adventure calls to him, he doesn't want to miss out on it. And in episode 1, we see the moment happen to him. And I think he's going to realize that, really, like, speaking of Wizard of Oz, there's no place like home. I think it's going to really be one of those things. And then you see it even with his father in episode 3, whereas in the first 2 episodes, he's cold, he's distant. I found him to be, I actually didn't have a problem with his acting. I saw some people did. I really liked the performance, but I just found the character of Wendell, who is Wim's father, I just found him so cold it almost made me uncomfortable to enjoy
it seems like he was somebody who maybe once had dreams and then they were crushed by
exactly. And I think you see
world
that
they're living in.
And I think you see that in his face in episode 3 when all the other parents are talking, and it's this beautiful shot where it's him, and then they just rack focus to where all the other parents come out of focus, and you're just focused on him, and the audio starts going out. And you can tell he's thinking about, like you said, his dreams. How have I been as a father? Is the things that I did cause this? Did what I do or how I treat him, cause this to happen? I think all of those things are going through his head. And the fact that we have that much intrigue and that much interest in the parents' storyline, which is the 3rd string storyline of this show, I think really, really speaks highly that I'm as invested in the kids getting home as I am for the parents uncovering this secret of At-Aten and what it means and everything. And then in a much larger look at that new frame, we can really, go out for absolute cinema. In a much larger scope of Star Wars, I just love what all this, the jewels of the old Republic, what this really adds to everything about Star Wars. I also just think the show looks fantastic. When they were in like Kim's, her whatever you want to call that, her like
observatory.
Yeah, her like observatory.
Yeah.
or her lab or whatever you want to say, it felt like Star Wars, and it also felt like nothing I'd ever seen before in Star Wars. Same with Kim herself. I was like, you see the little like hands like on some machine, and you're like, oh, what is this is clearly going to be some kind of a creature. What is it? And then when it was a little owl woman, I was like, what the hell? But I just loved it. I was like, it was immediately like, oh my God, this is just a classic instant Star Wars creature. Same way that like, I know and I like what they did with Kim. I do not like what they did with the character I'm about to mention, but the same way in the Acolyte that Basil, he was annoying as hell, but Basil, he felt like a Star Wars creature. It felt like this would be somebody that we would see in Star Wars. And I think that they just always do a great job on that. But I think in Acolyte, it was really just Basil and Kalnaka that we really had to kind of chew on as an audience for these like lush alien creatures that they can design. This show, Skeleton Crew, every single pirate is like a visual feast to like look at, like the creature shop, the motion capture shop, the what's it called, like stop motion animation, with the little teak attendant, the little ferry cab driver that he's like, payment or whatever, and he gives him the credit. He goes, ee! And he just runs away. Like it feels like Sally B.
Yeah, I was like, oh, it's another Babu Frick. That was
exactly. But that weirdo element of like, why is this thing in Star Wars? But it just fits perfectly and makes sense to be in Star Wars. So honestly, I'm like kind of loving this show right now. And like you said, I like the Acolyte a lot more than most people, but even towards the end, if the wheels, what am I trying to say? It started to equal less than the sum of its parts. I was like, okay, there's not enough here to really excuse some of the stuff that is some of the ball that is being dropped here. So while I like the Acolyte, I think that this is the bounce back that they needed. And honestly, I hope that this could be, like an Agatha All Along was for Marvel this year, where it's like, wow, you just did, pretty much everyone unanimously agreed that Agatha was either a home run or a solid, 3 base hit. It was like, it was like maybe not everybody was like, oh my God, Agatha's the best thing that Marvel's ever done. But I would say the majority to the most amount of people were like, wow, Agatha was like a really solid entry to the MCU. I hope we say that about Skeleton Crew. I hope we go, yeah, 2024, it was a real up and down year for Star Wars, but man, the lows were low, but the highs of Skeleton Crew, it just, you have to take that into account. I hope to God that is the conversation. You know what I mean? Because that's just so much better than 2024. We had 2 bad live action shows. Not that I think Acolyte was bad, but just to simplify it in internet terms, a hit and a miss looks a lot better than 2 misses. Right. You know what I mean? And I think we have a hit.
Yeah. Last question I think related to Skeleton Crew I have for you is what do you think of? Do you have a theory about Jude Law's character? I'm thinking maybe he was.
Just like his story of how he got to where we are.
And I guess like, cause I'm still trying to figure out the Force thing, honestly. And like I said, it could be like smoke and mirrors type thing. I don't know how you would explain that.
Yeah.
But I also like to think maybe he was, like the Acolyte. He was maybe a Jedi in training or something like that. And he left and took a bad turn. I like
a
us
Kanan.
Getting to these characters, and this is something I complained about like with Battlefront 2 specifically for the campaign, when I was like, okay, if you're gonna turn somebody from a good character to a bad, keep them bad, don't redeem them, just leave them. I want to see where that character goes. Whereas like again in Battlefront 2, for example, that main character starts off bad, but then we turn good. I'm like, no, just stay where you are. Like, I want to see more of that.
Yeah, I love Iden Versio, but that's like, not only did that happen, but it's right after the first mission. You get one mission with the Empire.
I mean, I think you're a bigger defender of that game than I am. I dislike that game very much, but
except for Ewok
specifically the campaign, but
yeah, except for Ewok Hunt.
Yeah,
I have literally played that campaign probably 6 times. Yeah. That is a game. It's downloaded right now on my PS5. That's a game that goes on and off my PS5 like every 6 months.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
I'm like, I just played Heroes and Villains arcade where I just bounced between Anakin and Yoda for like 20 minutes. I set it to, it was just the one where you just have to kill everybody. And I just set it to 200 people in like 30 minutes. And I was just jumping around Tatooine, just doing combo moves on people. And as Rey. I always forget that game isn't like 20 years old. I'm like, they really have Rey from Rise of Skywalker in this? And I'm like, yeah, that was like 5 years ago.
Yeah,
like the game
wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, I was like, the last update was only like 3 years. 3 years ago. All right, well, I think it's a pretty good show. Anything else that you
well, you gotta tell me if you have a theory. Do you have a theory?
Oh my god, I thought I like got so sidetracked by my love of Battlefront 2. I think okay. I just crafted something in my brain that I'm like, if you really want to up the melancholy, even into kind of sad, I'm gonna, because his age works perfectly to be a Cal Kestis, to be a Kanan Jarrus, who was a Padawan during Order 66, and then they went on the run. His age lines up perfectly with that. I would like it to be, this is total theory crafting, let him be a Padawan who chose to leave right before Order 66 and almost has like, maybe he went into this life of piracy because he has kind of a survivor's guilt mentality.
Okay, yeah.
I just thought of that. The word survivor's guilt jumped into my brain, and I was like, that would be really interesting. If it's like, I had a house, or I had a home, I turned my back on them and then they all died. And, and I feel like somehow that's on me. And so, I turned to this life of crime, and now I've been trying to make it work with these pirates, that kind of thing. That would just, I think, be an interesting twist on the Order 66 survivor element of it. To just make it, a little different than all the other Order 66 survivors that we have met. But I mean, other than that, I think maybe he's just a guy who they never went to. I think it just might be one of those people that got lost through the system. It's like, why didn't the Jedi ever come for me? That kind of thing. Like there was even in, not in the Plagueis novel, but I think in other Legends material, I know there is a story where Palpatine felt looked over because why didn't the Jedi come and recruit me?
Oh,
I was a Force sensitive kid. I maybe that was like the Dark Empire comics. I don't know. I have not read that stuff. But yeah, there's a story out there though where it's like that is one of his motivations is like, well, your system clearly doesn't work because you left me. That kind of thing.
Right.
And I think it could work for Jude Law's character to have resentment towards the Jedi. I think it could also be interesting if they do the survivor's guilt thing to have, great love for the Jedi. I mean, he does say to Fern, that's not a thing that the Jedi would do, that kind of thing. So maybe he does have some reverence for them. But either way, I feel confident enough in the show to know that we will get an answer. Which is great. I don't know what is going on on my street and why
heard a beep.
My street is completely silent until we record. It's like then it's people. I'm hearing all these noises. Sounds like Kim is outside. Sounds like an owl's hooting outside of my room. Yeah. Anything else on Skeleton Crew?
No. One question I do have unrelated.
To who do you think the supervisor is?
The supervisor
of the planet.
Oh, geez.
Do you think the supervisor would be able to contact the Republic? Oh, the supervisor cannot be bothered with things like this right now.
Yeah, see, so that's like that kind of Big Brother-ish kind of feel where it's,
it almost kind of feels like Wizard of Ozzy in a way, because it's like, who's this supervisor? It's like he's running the Emerald City, and nobody knows what's really going on.
Yeah,
it really kind of does feel like that. That kind of works.
I don't know.
That's just
I mean,
also
I don't think it'll be a character that we have seen before.
yeah,
Maybe if
no,
you
but I
pull
mean,
it
I
from
think
like
if
a
anything,
novel
it'll
or
be an
something.
actor that we know.
Oh,
I think
yeah,
it'll be,
that's possible.
it'll be like Bill Murray,